powered by Riverside FM.
Welcome to another edition of Unconventional Playbook. Please hit that like and subscribe button. Big news from the Minnesota Vikings, making a splash towards nearing the end of the trade deadline. We still have another week to go in terms of the trade deadline, but the Vikings and Kwesi Adofo-Mensah definitely making a splash, signing left tackle or trading for left tackle Cam Robinson. See, this sends a lot of message to the UP Nation, Minnesota Vikings Nation, Skol Nation, that the Minnesota Vikings are not even close to giving up on this season. And it shows you where the coaching staff and Kwesi feel like this team really is. This is a playoff team. This team can make a run, a deep run in the playoffs. That's the mentality, I think, that is behind the scenes. And it shows in them making this deal. I mean, think about it. Christian Darrisaw goes down. You could have put Brandel at the left tackle. You could have went with Quisenberry at the left tackle, but they went out, gave up some assets to bring in Cam Robinson, who's a veteran, 9-year veteran in the league, really good pass blocker, okay in the run blocking area. But the fact that the Minnesota Vikings went out and made the move, I think is huge. Kudos to Kwesi, kudos to KOC in terms of them getting that job done. I think it's really, really paramount for the Minnesota Vikings to get this game on Sunday. This game has been flexed to a Sunday night game, and it's a really, really important game for the Vikings. You know, it's time for them to get off the schneid. The one thing I wanted to talk about is just five reasons that we should continue to believe in the Minnesota Vikings defense. I know this last two losing streaks, the defense has not looked as dominant as it did within the first 5 games of the season. And I think people that were on board with the Minnesota Vikings and Brian Flores' defense, they're starting to panic a little bit. And there are some areas for concern. I mean, obviously we have some glaring weaknesses, but I don't think that there's a whole lot of reason to panic. Like, why can't it just be we've faced 2 really high caliber quarterbacks on a short week? The Detroit Lions are really showing their dominance against everybody. Jared Goff is playing at a high level. The team is playing at a high level. They got 2 great running backs in the backfield, stout offensive line, pretty decent defense. And the Minnesota Vikings gave them a really good game. Probably should have won the game, but losing on the last second field goal, okay, we'll take that. And then they had a short week to travel all the way out to the West Coast and play another formidable quarterback. And then they inject 2 all-star wide receivers that can play. How come it just can't be we played a really good team and then we played a team on a short week that injected 2 pretty good, awesome wide receivers and has a quarterback that has been there and done that and one of the best coaches in the league? Why does it have to be any more than that? 5 reasons why we should continue to believe in the Minnesota Vikings defense. First, Brian Flores. Brian Flores is a savant when it comes to defense. And any adjustments that he's going to have to make going forward, I believe in Brian Flores making those adjustments going forward. Now, the one thing he can't do is fix personnel. Obviously, the Minnesota Vikings need a stout defensive lineman. Hopefully, they'll be able to bring that to the team in some form or another before the trade deadline. I know everybody's been bouncing around Dexter Lawrence. Man, if that happens, I'll be the happiest guy in the world. I just don't see that happening. The question is always out there, should we give up 2 first-round picks for Dexter Lawrence? 25, 26 first-round picks? I would. I mean, he's the best. He is on pace this year to be Defensive Player of the Year. You wouldn't give up 2 first-round picks for that? He's still young. He's got a contract that would fit into our salary cap situations, and we could have that guy for years. And he makes our defense instantly better. Stops the run game. That's really important in Brian Flores' scheme because, as I said in previous podcasts, Brian Flores' defense is more effective when you can keep people off schedule. When you can pin your ears back, put offenses in situations where they're 3rd and long, 3rd and 8, 3rd and 10, 3rd and 12, that's when Brian Flores' defense really thrives. If teams can run the ball against the Minnesota Vikings, if they're willing to run the ball against the Minnesota Vikings, more than likely they're going to have more success than not if they can effectively run the ball, because it puts Brian Flores in situations where now he's got to guess. And that's been the blueprint the last 2 weeks. A guy like Dexter Lawrence would erase a lot of that and instantly make our defense better. But Brian Flores, on the defensive side of the ball, is a savant. So that's a big reason when things need to be plugged in, when things need to be fixed, count on Brian Flores to be able to do that. This is not a personnel decision like it was last year. He's got the pieces. But they're missing that one piece, that interior defensive lineman that can help stop the running game for other teams and put some pressure on quarterbacks up the middle. Second reason why you should believe in the Minnesota Vikings defense: the veterans on the squad. Blake Cashman is not going to be out forever. He's going to be coming back. And you could argue, since Blake Cashman has been out the last 2 weeks, that has really hurt the Minnesota Vikings defense, because I believe he was leading the Minnesota Vikings defense in tackles. So now you look at a deficiency on the interior defensive line, and then you have your inside linebacker with the green dot that's out as well. You think that didn't attribute to that defense probably not playing as well the last couple of weeks? Of course it did. Of course it did, UP Nation. Of course it did. So Blake Cashman's not going to be out forever. You got Grenard on one end. You got Van Ginkel. You got Harrison Smith playing safety. You got Stephon Gilmore. And I know a lot of people have been on, Stephon Gilmore. And Stephon Gilmore is not what he was a few years ago, but he's still a durable cornerback. And anybody that continues to get put on islands, sometimes you're going to get beat. This is the NFL. Shaq Griffin on the other end. You have a mix of veterans that have been there, done that, seen that. So whenever you get in a situation where you have to make adjustments, when you have experience like that on your defense, guys that have been in multiple defensive systems, guys that have a lot of games under their belt, guys that will continue to help enhance this defense to get better, that are going to be workmen behind the scenes in the film room to right the ship. This is different than having guys with no experience and that are young. So it's the one thing that you can hang yourself on, the experience. That should give you a lot of optimism going forward for the rest of the season. This is not a young team with young linebackers and young secondary. These guys have been through the wars. They're going to right the ship. That's just one reason to be optimistic. Third reason, the depth of this team. B-Flow is rotating about 15, 16 guys a game on defense. I mean, that is actually unheard of in the National Football League. The one perplexing thing about this whole thing is Dallas Turner. Like, if you're playing so many guys, 15, 16 guys, man, you can't find time for Dallas Turner. Like, give him some reps. Like, he's not getting a lot of snaps. And I know he's got guys in front of him that are playing pretty well. Grenard, Van Ginkel, like, you're not going to take those guys off the field just to try to develop a rookie, but he should be getting equal reps or more reps than like a Patrick Jones. You guys feel me on that? Or am I wrong on that? If I'm wrong on that, man, put it in the comments. Let me know what you think. But I just think Dallas Turner should be that next guy up. After you look at Van Ginkel and after you look at Grenard, like Dallas Turner, I feel like should be right there in that slot. But that's just an outsider looking in. I'm not in practice every day. Maybe there are some things that KOC and B-Flow are seeing that he's not doing. And I know people have looked at it as, well, we hope this is not a Lewis Cine situation. I don't think this is anywhere close to a Lewis Cine situation. But I can understand the concern because the guy is really not getting the reps that we thought that he would get. I mean, we were talking that he could possibly be Defensive Rookie of the Year coming into training camp. And it's just been surprising ever since he went out with that knee injury early in the season. You know, arguably his best game as a Minnesota Viking was that New York Giants game. And then a couple games later, he goes out with that knee injury. And since he's come back for that, he really hasn't had the opportunity to get a whole lot of time. And you just wonder what's going on behind the scenes. But I do think Dallas Turner is going to be okay. I think as the season goes on, they're going to, implement him into the lineup, give him more reps, because it's not like Patrick Jones is lighting it up. Patrick Jones has had his moments, but it's not like he has been lighting it up. Fourth reason why you should believe in the Minnesota Vikings defense, man, is because I tell you, I watched the All-22 stuff. I just think it's unscoutable. I just think it's an unscoutable defense. It's just so many looks, and it's just a guessing game for quarterbacks when you come up to the line. Now, if you have an effective running game quarterback, it takes the pressure off the quarterback. You don't really have to guess. And you want to put Brian Flores' defense in a situation where they have to guess. And that's where a really good running game comes into play. But you're not going to be able to scout that thing because, number one, you can't simulate it in practice. And number two, the looks are pretty much the same where they bring in multiple guys on those fronts and you don't know who's coming from what. So common sense just tells me when I look at that, there are no tendencies in terms of finding those and being able to beat the Minnesota Vikings defense. You just have to guess right and have an affecting running game. I just think that is the thing that the Vikings have in their back pocket, is that this defense is an unscoutable defense. Offenses cannot prepare their guys and say, this is exactly what's going to happen. This is exactly what you're going to see on Sunday. There's just the way the alignments are with the purple, there is just no way you can do that. You can guess. You can say probably this is what it's going to be in this situation. But if you're just not sure, it slows you down at quarterback. Now, my concern is that rumors are that Joe Flacco is going to start Sunday against the Minnesota Vikings. I don't know if that's been made official. I've seen it on multiple outlets that they have benched Richardson. And now Joe Flacco is stepping in. Joe Flacco, number one, he has a ring. And he's one of the most savviest quarterbacks in the league. Like, I don't think anybody is going to put him up there with some of the elite quarterbacks that have been in the NFL. but Joe Flacco is a baller. I watched him a full year with the Cleveland Browns last year and what he did for that franchise. And if you can overcome and do anything good in the Cleveland Browns franchise, you're doing something right, because that is a hard place to do anything good. And Joe Flacco played pretty well. And at times where he has gotten an opportunity to play in games this year, he's been effective for the Colts. So I have been hoping and praying that we see Richardson instead of Joe Flacco, but it sounds like it's going to be Joe Flacco. So that makes our task a little bit tougher because Joe Flacco has been there, done that. But I think he's not as mobile, obviously, as Richardson. So the blitz now is really important in being able to fool Joe Flacco at the line of scrimmage and make him see ghosts, make him see things that he's really not seeing. And that's where Brian Flores and his philosophy is going to come into play on Sunday night. Can't wait to see that matchup. And again, the fifth reason I think you should continue to believe in the Minnesota Vikings defense is I believe that the last 2 weeks have been overblown. I think saying that the Vikings defense have been exposed, again, I'll go on record. I don't know about that. I think you played a really good team on Sunday with a really good quarterback and a really good running game, and then you had a short week. And I think that's pretty much what it was all about. But we'll see. Either Sunday's going to prove that to be right, or Sunday's going to be able to prove that that was wrong. Because if the Colts come in here and put up numbers offensively, then I will acquiesce. Maybe there is a problem. But I'm banking on that it was just a tough turnaround, a unique situation, playing arguably the best team in the NFC, and then going in on the short week, not knowing what you were really going to face in terms of the Rams and their personnel. I just think when you raise expectations and you have the dominance that the Minnesota Vikings defense had for the first few weeks of the season, I think you get into this unrealistic environment that they are going to play lights out the rest of the way. I mean, one of the best defenses that I've seen of all time outside of the Chicago Bears defense of '85 was the Ravens defense back in the day when the Ravens were going to Super Bowl, mentioning Joe Flacco, when it was Ray Lewis and the crew. That was one of the more feared defenses around. The mentality of that defense was fierce. I remember they caught wind of guys urinating. I believe they were playing the New York Giants, and they found guys urinating on the field. And they asked some of the players, why were they doing that? And the Ravens defenders at the time, led by Ray Lewis, said, oh, we're just marking our territory. That's a mentality. That was one of the best defenses that I've ever seen. So my question to you was, how many bad defensive games during that season did the Ravens have where their defense wasn't as dominant? They had a few. So I'm not comparing this defense to the Ravens defense. Don't get me wrong. The point that I'm trying to make is even when you have a dominant defense, you have those games where it's not as dominant. It's not as dominant. It happens. It happens in NFL, especially when you face really good quarterbacks. That's why quarterbacks are paramount to have in the NFL. Funny how when the Cleveland Browns changed from Deshaun Watson to Jameis Winston, everything changed for the Cleveland Browns in their offense. First time they've scored over 20 points this season. Winston threw for over 300 yards. Funny how everything is fixed. The offensive line, the running game, wide receivers are catching the ball. It's funny. Great defenses can have lapses. It's been proven over a period of time. Remember when the San Francisco 49ers last year lost 3 in a row and people were scoring on their defense? And by the end of the year, they were back being the San Francisco 49ers type defense with Bosa and the boys. So I think this whole Brian Flores defense thing has just been overblown. I may be proven wrong, but we will see this Sunday night. So those are just 5 reasons why we should just continue to believe in the Minnesota Vikings defense. This is a good squad with a very good top 5 defense in the league. No exposure here. They will show up on Sunday night and they will get that victory. You can book it. You can book it. Please hit that like and subscribe button. Help the station to continue to grow. Man, I can't wait for Sunday night. I'm looking forward to the Vikings getting off the schneid, showcasing their new left tackle, Cam Robinson. Can't wait to see him out there. And just another opportunity for our boys to go out and show what they can do. I feel a victory coming on for the Minnesota Vikings. I know that they're going to come out there and play well against the Colts. This has been Unconventional Playbook. We will make sure to see you when we see you. Latre, take us home.
I don't know who I am. Can I say I'm a man? Am I losing my mind? Am I wasting my time? Do I know who I am?